everybody. Early morning and the 60th Krakow Film Festival. Critical morning. That's the name of the meeting we will starting right now. My name is Dagmara Romanowska and I'm a short fiction curator of the festival. And we have some wonderful guests with us, not tonight, but in the morning. Let me just introduce you. So everybody knows who's there. Tessa Louise Pope, the director of the film Overdue. Hello, Tessa, from Amsterdam. Again, this is a huge international bunch of us there. We have two guests from Vienna, and actually they learned today that are both from Vienna. There is Benjamin Krytyczny, Coming Home, the director of Coming Home. Hello, Benjamin. And Ozgur.
Hi.
And Ozgur Anil, the director of The Verdict in the Case of K.
Hello.
Hello. And there is also Tel Aviv and Tomer Shushan, White Eye, the director of the film White Eye. There should be also Stephen Irving coming, but I know that he's homeschooling, he's from the United Kingdom and it is quite strict there. He promised he would show up, so I hope he will join us later. And unfortunately, Jodel von Rotz, the director of Little Miss Fate, couldn't come because he's having a wedding in the family. I don't know if I can say it, and he's the best man. So I think he's excused. Guys, thank you for your films. And this is a very different bunch of titles we have here. And I'll try kind of to juggle between you. And I hope to learn more about the titles and about the influence of pandemics also on your creative work and creative life now. But let me start with the films. And perhaps Tessa, with you, you're the director. For those of you who haven't seen a film yet, this is a documentary about women who talk about their abortion. It's a very powerful picture, very touching, very intimate. And I was just wondering, how did you come up with such an idea in the first place to talk about it? And then also, how did you manage to persuade your characters to be so honest and open about the experience, very harsh for them? And this is the first time many of them, they even mentioned in the film that this is the first time they talk about it. So first, how it all started, and then you work with those ladies.
So I had an abortion when I was 23. And I had friends around me who have had the same experience and made the decision to terminate their pregnancy, their unexpected pregnancy. But I think I misjudged how much of an impact it would have had on me. I was very confused. I was sad, and I didn't know if I was sad, if that meant that I was regretting my decision. So I was very conflicted with a lot of things. And so years later, I'm luckily much older by now. I had a baby 2 years ago, and seeing my wish for a child sort of granted, I thought I could look back at the period of when I had the abortion and talk to other women how they felt about it, and see if we can maybe build some sort of platform where we could all speak about the experiences we had. And I recognized a lot in these stories. And I think in the research phase of the film, we spoke to over 50 women. And all of them basically said, I feel very happy to join this mission, but I do not want to be in a film and have my neighbor recognize me. I'm still embarrassed of the decision I had to make. And it's a very painful memory. And I think these three girls were all brave enough to really say, like, I support the fact that we all collectively in society should talk more about the aftermath or the emotional impact an abortion can have. So I was very proud that they wanted to join this film.
It's very brave of them, I would say. In Poland, abortion is a very controversial subject in the public sphere. And for this private sphere, I think that you kind of open the door. Definitely for Polish viewers, it is not so much in the open. And I was wondering, what is it like in the Netherlands? Is it like a stigma, or you mentioned being ashamed or embarrassed about it? Not only about the emotional impact of the abortion itself, but how the society looks at it.
Well, I think unfortunately, I always say like the generation of my mom made it possible in Holland to legally have an abortion. And I think we should be grateful. But I think it's up to my generation to also start this emotional revolution, to be able to speak about the effect it can have on women and how women in Holland each year, 30,000 women have an abortion or choose to have an abortion. That means that there are 30,000 experiences every year being lived very much in solitude, I believe. Although I think I am an open person, I didn't even talk about my experiences afterwards with my friends because I just didn't know if I was the only one feeling so stupid or embarrassed or ashamed. And I think the image of women that choose abortion is still very much an image of dumb young girls who don't know the consequences of sex or who are irresponsible. And I think making this film, I had to write a film plan and write down my motivation why I wanted to make the film, and I also had to write down my own story. And when I was writing down my own story, I thought, is this going to haunt me the rest of my career? Is this going to reflect negatively on me as a person that I had this experience, which again highlighted the mission that it's much needed to have this topic be more talked about.
Much discussion. Has the film been shown in the Netherlands yet or at other festivals? And did you get some feedback?
So we had the festival premiere, the national festival premiere last year, the end of last year. And we had some showings in between. And this evening, actually, the film is going to premiere on television. And the television broadcasters that are involved in the development of the film, they have decided to make this extra program, sort of talk show, especially around the film, to support the topic and to encourage women to share their stories. So they invited a panel with other women who also had the same experiences and who talk more about numbers and statistics. And we've had leading up to this TV broadcast this evening, we had lots of interviews, lots of questions, newspapers, lots of attention for the film, which I'm very grateful for, which I think again highlights how much overdue it is that we are talking about this topic.
This is a very difficult topic for the morning, 10 o'clock. And I'm afraid that also other films are not as light as perhaps you would like to have at this hour. And now I'd like to get to Osgur Anil, whose film The Verdict in the case of Kay is also a very difficult one. This is a story about the impact of a rape on the daughter in the family. And what I really loved about your film is then you took up such a difficult subject. And actually, I think this is like one of the first films that I saw that talk about this drama, this trauma, from the point of view of the family. The victim is still very important in here, of course. But this is really interesting to see what you showed, the destruction of the whole structure of this family, the impact of this trauma on everybody connected to the victim. And I was wondering, how did you start it? How did you start this film? It's very intimate again. If you could, tell us a bit about it.
There were many different starting points, actually. I'm very interested into the justice system. I've been going to trials for many months, like years ago. I'm really interested in courtroom hearings. And I was very interested in the topic of the internet and things being in the public, because I'm also working as a journalist, and I was working on many different stories I thought should be talked openly in society, but the people I wanted to interview or write articles about didn't want to be a public figure, or didn't want their stories to be read in the newspaper. And this fear of like being in the public was something that I like. It really struck me. Like there was a whole world of media where people like they didn't want to be part of that, and I totally understand that. And another point that interested me a lot was like yeah, this different generations, and when like I didn't want to start the story right after something tragic had happened, but many months after that, because I I have the feeling that when something tragic happens to someone, that yeah, you have your own time, you can be sad for a couple of weeks, but after a couple of months, many people in society tells you, yeah, now you have to go on, go back to school, go back to work, but it's something that you can't get rid of. It's a part of you now. And this going back to normal was something I was very interested in, and these many different starting points. And I was very angry at the time as well. I was like at a place in my life where I wasn't very happy, and these different things came together, and then I wrote the script. Yeah.
Yeah, but it isn't an angry film. It's a very deep story that goes into emotions, not into anger. I mean, the brother is perhaps the anger figure. I don't know if you relate to him, perhaps, but the persons, the family members, each of them tries to cope with it on a different level. I don't know if you
Yeah,
have anything to add to that.
definitely. I think like for me, I didn't want to make an angry movie. It was just something inside me, because, as you said, it's a big topic, and I wasn't sure that I should make a film about it, because it's so difficult to pay justice to such a big topic. I was really afraid of handling it if I would succeed. So I was very hesitant about writing and shooting it, I must say, because one frame or one shot that's not appropriate can destroy everything. And I wanted to make fine tuning in every character. It had to be balanced. It had to be very well proportioned, everything. And this was a big challenge for me, actually.
You mentioned that you work as a journalist and kind of it came to you, the subject, and I was wondering, while writing on the script, did you talk to any families that went through such a trauma? Or is it a fictional story built upon just stories around you?
It it is a fictional story, but it is grounded in many different articles I read. I didn't have like a real life story I based it upon, but it's an accumulation of different stories I've read and I've heard about.
Okay, thank you. For everybody who's watching, I'd like to remind you that do come up with the questions. If there are any, I will pass them to the filmmakers. So please join us. They are here for you. And I'd like to move to Tomer now. Also, a very important social issue theme. And what I love about White Eye is that this is, a story that starts, you know, even you could say that it's funny at the beginning. I mean, this is just an incident that a guy finds a bike that was stolen from him and he just wants to get it back. And, you can think that it is a comedy at the beginning, but with every frame, every next scene, we learn more and more of the background. And then, this little funny story begins to be a very difficult and deep social drama that tells us something about the society, the immigration, and not hate, but some stereotypes perhaps. And I was wondering, what was the beginning? Why did you decide to tell it in such a way? Comedy, drama, tragic, and how did you work on the project?
I started to work on the project 2 years ago, when it was a day that, like the deadline of sending script for the Israeli Film Foundation to receive the funds to make your film, and I already had a script that I worked on like for 3 months. And on the way to meet my mentor that helped me to write and to edit the script, this story actually happened to me. So I ran into a refugee that claimed that he owned my stolen bicycle, and at the beginning it was lots of characters that was around me. It was a bit like a theater show. Like everyone had like such a unique personality that it looks like a bit like a funny show, but then it's really got escalated and things became really dramatic and tragic at the end. So at the end, after 40 minutes that the story was behind me, I went to see my mentor and I just told her what happened, and with like 2 hours for the deadline, I decided like to write it, and then I sent it, and that's how White Eye born.
You have decided to make this film in one shot. I think it was quite a challenge. Why did you decide to go for it? Was it just like an experiment, or is there something deeper there in this decision? And I was wondering also, how did it influence the way you work on the project? That was it like? Is it like the first and final version, or did you take this shot like a couple of times? So why? So the first question, why, and then how?
At first, the decision to make it in one shot, it's because it's a story about a person who experienced a stressful and intense moment, and instead of acting from rational place, he gives he comes with like all the rage, and everything happened to him in a short while, in one moment, without any time to think and to stop and to understand if he's doing the right thing, and he don't have any moment to breathe and to do the right decision. So I wanted like to do a one shot, because in one shot you don't have, as a viewer, you also don't have a moment to breathe, and that's how you can more connect it to the character and the decision he makes. And we did it in one night, for like 7 or 8 takes. And instead of to do a few shooting days, we just did lots of rehearsals with the camera and the actors and all the crew, and we only had money to make it in one night. So at the beginning it was very hard, because when we had already 3 hours left for the sunrise, we didn't have any take that stand from the beginning till the end. But I don't know, with luck, maybe it happened before the sunrise.
Great, congratulations. Would you go for another movie like that with one shot? Or is it the one lifetime experience and you wouldn't go for it another time?
I will have to think about it again, because it made me so stressful, and yeah, you need to. I wasn't prepared. I came really clueless to this, and now after this experience, I will need to think twice.
I'd like also to ask you about the actors, especially those who play the immigrants. Are they like actors or the naturals that you found and wanted to join the project?
They're non-actors. The main character, Yunus, is a guy that I ran into the street. I mean, I walked in the street in the middle of the night and I saw him through a small window of a burger shop, washing dishes, and outside like crosses, and I felt that I need to talk to him, and then I talked to him, and he didn't know what I want, and he was scared at the beginning. But after I convinced him to talk to me, we met a few times, and we understood that it should be him. He also wanted, because he understands his part and what it says, and then we started. We worked 7 months, and he learned Hebrew for the film, and yeah, it was really unique to work with a non-actor.
So a huge challenge. I mean, working with non-actors, working on a one-take movie, all on little money, written on the last moment for the deadline. So quite a stressful project, I guess it was.
Yeah, it's stressful, and yeah, everything was very intense and very hard. But I mean, I liked it. I felt that that's how you're supposed to do things that make you passionate and to get like what you want, even though it seems impossible.
You have to do the impossible. And with this sentence, I'd like to move to Benjamin. Hi. With there is this Benjamin is the creator of a short animation Coming Home, 4 minutes, that are just wild and crazy. And when I talk with animation authors, many of them say that they love animation as the medium, because this is the medium they can make their wildest, they can turn their wildest dreams into sort of reality. And with your case, with Coming Home, I think the idea is you couldn't do it out of the animation. For those of you who haven't seen the project yet, perhaps Benjamin, if you could give the little introduction yourself with the Trump and yeah.
Yeah, with delight. So it's a very short animated film, as you said, about the U.S. Americans going back to their homes of descent, where they came from generations ago. So everybody, they found that they give in 2020 or 2019, they give the land back to the native Indians, and everybody is going back home in the present time. So they go to the old harbors and put out the Mayflower and the Maria and all the old ships, and sail back to Europe mainly. So this is the basic idea. And the first idea to this movie I had years ago when President Obama got elected, and everybody thought now they're gonna make everything right, and rectify really everything, and the idea was really everything. They have to give the land back to the native Indians. And the second idea came when President Trump got elected some years ago, and all these populists start in all over the world. In always this talk about migration background and send the people back to where they came from, even generations ago. And this is really and the film should show how silly this idea is. I have migration background, a Polish migration background, so and it should just show how silly this idea is and how silly the idea of racism is. That's why there are so many racial stereotypes in the film, and some people first screen because it's really Germans, very stereotyped, Chinese people from the Netherlands, and it was just the idea.
There is a little problem with the voice, but I think it was perhaps with the. I couldn't hear you that well, but I think like at the end it was kind of jumpy there.
Okay.
But I hope. Now it should be better. But the idea is, I mean, what I loved is that while watching it, it's a very funny movie, and there is a lot of pop culture into it that you put, and of course there is a song, and there are some speeches from Trump and etc. So this is like a very very funny film to watch. And then again, when you finish the screening, then you realize everything that you say, that there is a huge social immigration background, and this is really like it shows everything that is happening in the world. And today, watching it this week with what is happening in America, I think the message is even stronger. And there's something, perhaps, I don't know if you do relate now your film to what is happening in the States now, because it is like another kind of a chapter to your film, I would say.
Yeah, I thought so too. Yeah, but as I said, it shows how an idiot sees the world, and it's now confirmed in the United States even more, or it's confirmed nearly every month or every week how an idiotic ideas this president has. And yeah, there's more plots now for a second movie, I guess. But I hope when it's that also there is another president.
So you'll wait for another president. What if Trump wins? You will have to write like a sequel with Trump speeches there.
But then I can make a second movie.
Animation always takes a lot of time to create. And did you work long on your project? 4 minutes in animation is, it's short for the viewers to watch, but for an animator it can be months or years sometimes. What was it in your case?
Yeah, it was quite long because I made it on the side. So I'm 1/3 of an animation studio, and we make commercials and work. And I just did it in my free time, and I also have a small child. So and then. No, I finished it before Corona, but there was not so much time. So basically, most of it I did in the evening, so some spare time. So it took me about a year, I guess. And I got funding from the city of Vienna, but very low funding. But this was the motivation to do it now and to finish a certain point. And the second motivation was to finish it when Trump is still president. So the people know what I'm talking about, what's not. But I think even a bit more. It took me, all in all,
quite some time. I have a question for you from Bartek, and the question is: your film reminded me of a music video because of its length and song used in it. Did you think about it in the way while producing it? So did you think about the whole film?
It was very. Yeah, I did. I wanted to do it with music, and I wanted to have some kind of old American song that kind of gives you the spirit of westerns and stuff like this. And I heard this song by Bobby Winton years ago in the credit sequence of an 80s 70s Austrian TV series, and it was quite hard to research who where the rights are, and then I took this music first and then arranged everything around it, and it was basically very early clear that I will use this song, "Coming Home, Soldier,"
Was it difficult to
and
get the
also
rights?
arrange it a bit the visuals. It was a bit difficult because nobody knew where the rights are at the moment, because the rest of the songs, but probably more famous songs, are at a certain label, but this particular nobody knew, but in the end we got it.
I
I'm
would ask
frozen
you,
again, I guess. Yeah.
your voice sometimes freezes like a little bit. It's a bit jumpy, but I think it's audible all along. I'd like you to ask you the question you ask your characters ask at the end. What now? You did tell about
We'll
other
see.
projects, but kind of.
Oh, about projects. Yeah, well, we'll see. At the moment, it's in the Corona situation. I'm finishing some commissioned work we got before Corona, and there at the moment there's no new stuff, but we will see what happens the next weeks or months.
Guys, I'd like to ask you, all of you, the same question. What were the biggest challenges, difficulties of your project? Were they like every filmmaker of a short film is fighting for the financing, but you tackle all those different difficult subjects. So perhaps the subject was the most difficult thing about the project, or was there anything else? Perhaps Tessa, I will come back to you. So if you, what was it, the psychological side of the project, or anything else that made you struggle for the film?
I think in general, filmmaking is a huge struggle. And not all parts I find very fun. I think writing a film plan and making sure your idea is crystal clear at forehand causes me sleepless nights, but also when you're in it and you find your way to tell a story or how you want to tell a story, you're on and it keeps you going. I think for this project, the most difficult thing was to find women who wanted to share their story. As I told you before, I think the shame and the taboo and the intimate, painful memories of going through an abortion, I think for lots of women was a reason not to want to partake in a film. And then for the entire nation and Poland and other countries to also think of something of their stories. I think these girls were all afraid of getting judged for their experiences. And I think that going forward now also, I get interviews and people are writing articles, and it's so I'm so on top of everything, because if they start a story by saying, there was a journalist here in Holland who was writing a story for the newspaper, and he started the story, what if you as a woman can't receive the biggest gift you're allowed to get? And then there was an interview. So I think the words we pick and choose to talk about this topic, it's very particular in my opinion. So that was difficult for me.
For a documentary filmmaker, there is always this huge responsibility that you as a filmmaker take for your characters, and you have to make choices. you interview your characters, and I was wondering if you had like any ethical questions for yourself. Where is the border? Where is the point that you cannot cross, not to hurt your characters that are so brave to come forward and to reveal their story?
Yeah, I think talking to these women, I talked to them in like 3 or 4 steps, and I also made sure that in every step they felt they had an out, so they could say no, or I have doubts, or I don't want to. I said the most important thing if you want to take part in this film is that your gut tells you that this is something you want to do. So it's very based upon a feeling and a sort of internal drive that makes you want to partake in a film like this. And I said to them, if you want to take part in the film, then I'm going to have to ask you everything. And we're going to go over all the different parts, all the feelings, all the physical aspects, all the emotional aspects, all the aspects of how it played out in your family, your relationship, like the whole scope of the story on your abortion. And they said okay, and they agreed, and they understood that that was important. And then moving forward, I think it was very important for the film that we also acknowledged that they still supported and backed the decision that they made at the time to choose to terminate their pregnancy.
I guess otherwise it would be like a theme for a psychologist or a therapist. If they didn't work it through themselves, it would be probably unfair to show it in a film if they didn't work it out for them. I have a question for you from one of the viewers. Do you think you will continue with the topic of abortion in your next project, or was it maybe too emotional or close for you?
So I think this was an idea or something that I struggled with myself, and I took it to research to find out, are there other women struggling with this, or is this a topic that needs a platform? Like I had no clue. It wasn't a feeling, and I started off of that hunch. But going into this topic and finding how controversial it still is, how there are people anti-abortion, people protesting at abortion clinics in my country, in Holland, where it's legal and we're supposed to think so freely and openly about the choices we make in our own lives. And it baffled me how close-minded people still are when it comes to this topic. So I definitely feel the spirit to take this mission further. I don't know if my next film is also going to be about abortion, but I'm definitely going to continue in the support of making this topic be more talked about and socially accepted.
This is something I think for you a challenge also, not only as a filmmaker but as a woman and an artist, that I guess that you will be interviewed, you will talk about the subject, you will become this sort of an ambassador, that you sort of come out of the role of a director here a little bit. Do you feel like that?
Well, I strongly believe that personal stories and personal motivation is the biggest drive behind any creative project. So it made a lot of sense for me, or I had to also myself cross that boundary. As I said before, like writing the film plan, I also had to cross that boundary that my experience and my story was also going to be a public story. But I believe that also led me to make a film where I could relate to these women and I could understand them and support them, and we could together voice this experience. And so, yeah, I think it's, I struggle sometimes. There are journalists who want to write a story saying, want to ask me questions. Were you in a relationship? Did you have unprotected sex? Like very intimate, very personal questions. And I continuously answer those questions by saying that has nothing to do with my experience. That has nothing to do with the impact it had on me. It was in my emotional process I had to go through. So it's good to, at forehand, decide what do you want to share and what do you think is not important, what supports the mission, and what do you see it being irrelevant. If that's an answer to your question.
Okay, yes, thank you. And Oscar, I would like to move to you and to ask you about the challenges that you went through. You mentioned earlier on about your personal anger and this difficult moment in your personal life, and then the film, which deals also with huge emotions, with a specific community, tradition, and culture. What were the challenges, difficulties? What were the things that you had to struggle on the verdict in the case of Kay during the work? And
the biggest struggle was finding this balance of these huge emotions and trying to cope with poetic moments in between. This balance of different emotions was very difficult, but the practical struggle was just casting. It was very difficult to cast this family. The father, the man who plays the father, we flew him in from Turkey, because I couldn't find anyone in Austria to really pull that off. I was very lucky with the girl. She's an actress in a acting university here in Vienna. But for the boy, I looked for so many young guys and I couldn't find anyone. I was very, very upset, and I didn't know what to do, because if I can cast this character, I won't be able to shoot the film. So I had all the applicants through and nobody was the right person, and I thought maybe I have to play it myself. And I was happy that on the last day of casting, the last person that came in was my hairdresser. He isn't the actor, but he was interested in acting, and I was skeptical about him first, but the moment he said the dialogue, I know that he was the right person. So casting was very difficult for this project, but I'm happy the way it turned out.
it's incredible that the hairdresser is the actor in your film. I mean, for short filmmakers, there are crazy challenges there, and to find your hairdresser as the character is like a miracle, I guess. And I think the casting is the clue to this film. I mean, we have to believe the emotions of the persons we see in the screen to follow this story. And if the actor is the hairdresser, how did you manage to get this, while directing and having more journalistic background? I was wondering, what was it for you? And the film is also emotional but very poetic at the same time, strong, and this is all those balancing that you cannot make a gesture too much, a step too much, a word too much.
Yeah. The good thing was the hairdresser wanted to become an actor, so he was very motivated to play it. Now he's studying acting in Turkey, which I'm very happy about. And the key thing was time. I was extremely cautious with time, because I knew that I needed a lot of time to get these performances, and we didn't have a lot of camera setups. Most scenes are shot in one shot. So once the camera was set, I knew I had a couple of hours to work with the actors on the nuances. And we had, per day, we didn't shoot more than 5 or 6 shots, which was thanks to my producer and cameraman who pulled it off with me to give the time for directing it. But I had a great crew. I mean, in these short films, it's just very difficult to pull that all off. And I had a great crew, and I'm really happy about that.
And there I have actually a question for you, Oscar, from the viewers. Was your film already shown in Austria? If yes, what was the response you got there from the community you tried to portray? Or any feedback that you got already, is there?
We had like a festival got cancelled in Austria. We had last week one online film festival and we had a screening from university as well. The responses have been very good, I must say, and I was very nervous because I didn't know what to expect. Like, people could hate the film because it's such a sensitive topic. The reactions have been very good. The films have been shown internationally as well, and I'm really happy about the responses and the details that everyone has his own interpretation. And I'm really happy about that, because one of my professors in film school, because I'm still studying directing, he said he watched the film twice. When the first time he watched the film, he thought that he had a definite clue what the ending was. And the second time he watched it, he had a completely different interpretation. And I'm happy about this ambiguity that this film offers to the viewer. And many people ask me, so what's the real interpretation? What was you thinking when you wrote and shot the film? But I happy that people discuss these topics and are engaged in the story. I'm really happy about that.
I think I can tell you that while we were, discussing the films that got into competition, we did talk a lot about your ending, and there were different interpretation. I think this is, through the rain, the meaning of the water, and how everything kind of goes through the streets, through the characters, and it's quite ambiguous. It opens many doors, I think, and discussions. So congratulations on that. And now I'd like to move to Tomer. We talked a little bit about the difficulties of the one shot of working with non-actors, but at one moment you mentioned the Israeli Film Fund and the topic of the short time that you have to work on such films. And the Israeli Film Fund, actually, from what I know, they do support a lot of short film filmmakers. Or I am wrong? How the system works, and do you feel that you can get the support from your other projects as well?
Yeah, actually, we have a few film foundations. The film foundation supported me, named Makor, which at first I got few no's, and they the only one that gave me the yes, and because of them, I was able to make the film. So yeah, like you have 2 times in a year that you can send scripts and wish to get fund for it. Israel have lots of talented filmmakers, so the competition is always very hard. I was lucky, as I said, to get money to make the film, and yeah.
I was wondering, this is like the harsh time we meet online, not in a cinema because of the pandemics. And I was wondering, and many other people, I think also, how does it impact your work? How did you manage through the lockdown? Did you manage to work on something? And what do you think the future holds for you? Will it be easier or more difficult to come with next projects? How do you find yourself in these weird times?
Actually, I don't know. To be home in this quarantine, it's something that I'm used to, because I'm all the time wish to have a reason to stay home, and so I can write and focus on new stories and new scripts that I want to develop. So lately, I just started to work on my feature debut film that also deal with the same subject about classes. That's something that's very burning inside of me, that I really want to discuss and talk and deal with. In Israel, you can feel a lot this subject between classes, the difference between people that the society creates, something that really, really bothers me. And I feel that I found myself every time, no matter if I'm creating stories about other things, that at the end of the creation and the thing that I'm writing, this is the main thing that that you feel as a viewer and as a reader. So I'm focusing on this, and I really hope to have the luck again and to get money to make a feature film in the future.
Fingers crossed. And Benjamin, what was the pandemics and lockdown for you? Did you manage to write something? Did you see any positives of the situation?
Yeah, I didn't write really something. I worked a bit on a project, but the other thing is that came at the same moment in I don't know what's the English term, but in I'm taking care of my son who is 1.5 for while my girlfriend works also at home. Now she can work again. She's a teacher. So the most of the time I was with my son and in the a bit on our own project, but it's basically a day filling profession to take care of a little child.
Once I heard somebody said that, if the lockdown comes back and we cannot shoot movies in the streets or in the studios, in the groups, animation can be a winner here because you don't need to have a group there. Would you think that this is a way to fight the virus? Create animation?
Yeah, I read this too, that in I think in the United Kingdom there are now more animation projects during the COVID period. I didn't notice that, but I think it is a two techniques. You always have to have real live action movies and animation, but maybe for the moment there will be a bit more solution where they take animation instead of live action because it's just simpler at the moment. Pretty sure that you will live action soon again.
We definitely need both live action and animation. Just was wondering what was your take on it, because I had this crazy idea. Let's go
But for me
let's go
personally,
cinema
I
into
hope
animation.
that it's more.
Let's keep the faith. And Tessa, what was pandemics for you? Did you manage to work on something else, or just concentrated on yourself? I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
I'm here.
So,
yeah.
Hi.
Well, hi. I think I recognize a lot of what the other guys just said. Like, as Benjamin said too, I have a small child, so she was home for the last 2 months. She's 2. And I recognized like the blessing in disguise of staying at home and slowing down life a little bit, again, with the most horrible reason, obviously. But work has been, for me, I'm grateful, I'm healthy, and I still have work, and I'm continuing to write on a new film I'm making, and I'm finishing a project, and I do a lot of making commercial work, documentary style. So that is also still ongoing. So for now, I was grateful with the pause and to spend some time with my family, because as I think all creative souls and being a freelance director, you have to work pretty hard, don't make that much money. So to combine all the stuff and then to have a little bit of a pause was nice for me. But again, I'm most of all very grateful that I'm still healthy and I still am able to work.
And Oscar, for you, what was it, the time of a close up of lockdown? Osgur?
Yes, hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in a very privileged position. I just, like Tomer said, I like to be on my own. I just read a lot of books. I watched a lot of films. I discovered the works of Wang Bing, the documentary filmmaker, and I fell in love with it. And his films are long, so I had time to watch them carefully. That made me really happy. And I'm preparing my first feature, and I'd like to begin with the casting, but we couldn't do that. And I don't like online castings, so we had to postpone that. But it was for me really a good time to focus on the things that I really like to do and minimize all the noise in my life. It was for me, I was really good for me. I can't complain. But it's just a horrible incident. It was just, I'm very privileged.
Well, a good thing from online that you could watch the films, not in this. But the cinemas in Austria are being opened now, or
They opened this week.
Right.
Have you already been to the cinema then?
No, I couldn't. I have university lessons. I have to have Zoom meetings and stuff. So it was very difficult.
Yeah, everyone's zooming all around. And Benjamin, I meant to ask you about it earlier. It slipped my mind, but it got back. You mentioned some Polish roots of you. Could you tell something more about it?
Yeah, exactly. My father was born in Poland. The first 2 years in Poznan. But unfortunately, I never been to Poland, and I also unfortunately speak the language. My father too, and therefore it's from my grandfather's side. I don't exactly know it because it was a kind of a bit mysterious. But I would like to next year to find out more about my descent, like in the movie. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, to come back to the roots, but not to live there, but just to learn more about it. Pity we have the time we have, and that you couldn't come to Krakow. Vienna and Krakow are quite close, so I hope it will work soon. Guys, we'll have to be ending now. An hour passed quite quickly. I hope that you did enjoy the festival so far. Did you come to the concert yesterday, any of you? Nobody. So come, you can still watch it online. I do recommend it, and then perhaps you will, Benjamin. If you look for all different interconnecting of cultures, I think yesterday's concert would be like a great thing. I just recommend it. I love that. I hope you will be able to come to Krakow with your next projects. For everybody who hasn't seen the blog yet, I would like to remind you that there is one more screening on Saturday at 2 o'clock, June the 6th, Saturday. And while Stephen couldn't join us, he wrote he had some troubles with homeschooling and that he would try to make it. But then, a wedding and school are good excuses. So we'd like just to say hi to them. And once again, thank you, Benjamin, Tomer, Osgur, and Tessa for coming and spending time today with us. Thank you so much. It was brilliant having you in Krakow online.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.